Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live, right here on Facebook Live, YouTube, and Twitter. As always, I'm Bryson Carver, and for Friday's show today, of course, I was at the game last night in Tampa. As of right now, I don't know the result of that game. You know why? Because this was recorded before the game in Tampa. But I am here to make the rest of my Week 1 NFL predictions. That's what we're going to do in the show today. All the 1 o'clock games, all the 4:30 games, all, the Sunday night game between the Bears and the Rams. Going to save the Monday night prediction for next Monday's show, of course. But a lot to get into. Obviously, all the times are Eastern. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get it. Starting with the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Atlanta Falcons at 1 p.m. Eastern on Fox. If you look at the line right now, the Falcons are favored -3.5. If you look at both teams, you're talking about an Eagles team that did not look good in the preseason. I did not like their head coach hiring of Nick Sirianni going into the year. I think this is absolutely a rebuilding team. I kind of like Jalen Hurts. I don't buy into him at all quite yet. He had a lot of turnovers at the end of last season. I'm sure he's going to be better, but you're talking about an offensive line that is getting older. You're talking about a defensive line, which is getting older. And what's scary about the Eagles is those are the two strengths of their team. I know they added Devontae Smith in the draft. I don't buy into him as an NFL receiver as much as I did a college receiver where he obviously won the Heisman last year. The secondary is not good at all in Philadelphia. It's just a total mess. I picked them on my prediction show yesterday to finish last in the NFC East. And the Atlanta Falcons side, new head coach Arthur Smith. This is a team that's going to put up a lot of points this year. Matt Ryan, I'm tired of the Matt Ryan slander, man. Okay, the dude can still play. Still puts up big numbers week in and week out. You got Calvin Ridley coming back. Julio Jones is gone. That obviously hurts. But it's not a bad consolation prize to get Kyle Pitts, one of the most generationally talented tight ends we've ever seen, coming into the NFL. He's an Atlanta Falcon. Let's put up the prediction right now. I've got the Atlanta Falcons winning 35-20 over the Philadelphia Eagles. I believe they do cover the spread. Again, they're favored -3.5 going into Sunday. I just think they're a better football team. Philly's defense is bad. Atlanta's defense is equally bad, but so is Philadelphia's offense. And this is a battle of two teams that I do not think will sniff the playoffs, but it will be an interesting one to say the least, one you'll definitely want to keep your eyes on. I've got the Atlanta Falcons winning 35-20. Going to now a matchup between two playoff teams from last year. As a matter of fact, two division-winning teams of last year. The Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Buffalo Bills, the team that I predicted to go to the Super Bowl, dethrone Kansas City, and it ultimately fall to the Tampa Bay Bucks in Super Bowl 56 in Los Angeles. This is going to be a really interesting game. Vegas right now has Buffalo favored -6.5, so they really like the Buffalo Bills going into this game at home against Pittsburgh. Remember, last year, these two teams played on the Sunday night game late in the season. Pittsburgh couldn't push the ball downfield. I get it, Steeler Nation. It's one of the best fan bases in all sports, without a doubt. Those are great fans up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I know Big Ben is in shape now for like the first time in his career. But can he push the ball down the field? I mean, last year, yeah, he wasn't in shape, but last year couldn't push the ball down the field. Why? Well, because he had arm surgery the offseason before. So has that arm fully healed? I mean, he's not getting any younger. He is 39 years old. And so when you look at this game, you look at the fact he can't push the ball down the field, going against a quarterback that is one of, if not the best, along with Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, at pushing the ball down the field. And that's obviously Josh Allen. This Buffalo Bills team is absolutely stacked. I have a little bit of concern about their running game, but that's about it. Defense got better. Offensive line is excellent. Receivers are excellent. And their quarterback is as good as it gets. Put up the prediction now. I do not believe the Bills will cover, because the Steelers usually like to get out the gates, firing. They usually play some pretty exciting football in September, win or lose. However, I will take the Buffalo Bills. While they will not cover, they will win the game 27-23. One could argue it might be the best 1 o'clock game of the day, or it may be my upset of the week coming up in just a few picks here. But jumping to another game. Two teams that missed the playoffs last year. One expected to make it. One is still, I believe, in rebuild mode. I'm talking about the Minnesota Vikings taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. This is a really interesting one because you got two teams that have pretty good offenses. One could argue even for Cincinnati an above-average offense. But when I look at this game, this is what's really interesting to me. And it's kind of going to be a something's got to give type of game, because the Minnesota Vikings defense is not what it used to be 3-4 years ago. Okay, the defensive line is not good. Everson Griffin's back. What is he in year 12, year 13? He's way past his prime. Trying to bring him back for, I guess, one more run. Mike Zimmer is a defensive-minded coach, but I think defense is actually going to be the weakness of the Vikings this year. But then the flip side, when you look at the Cincinnati Bengals, offensive line is bottom 5 in the league. And when you've got a quarterback who's coming off of a gruesome knee injury last year, and I was heavily critical the day after the draft, you can look up the tape, the day after the first round of this year's NFL draft, when they did not take Penei Sewell, instead taking Jamar Chase. And thus far, Jamar Chase, despite the LSU connection, can't catch a cold. I mean, he's been bad in the preseason. I'm sure he'll get it together. Him and Burrow had that connection, obviously. But the line right now is Minnesota -3. So the Bengals are home dogs. And I do believe they will fall to the Vikings. Minnesota will 100% cover. They win 34-21. Another thing I forgot to bring up, Cincinnati's defense is awful. It really did not improve that much at all in the offseason. And that's one of the reasons that I think that Joe Burrow may not have the type of success that you expect number 1 draft picks to possibly have, because his defense is bad, his offensive line is bad. Frankly, I don't think his head coach is very good, Zach Taylor. What has Zach Taylor done since he came into the NFL? So I will take the Vikings to win this game over clearly an inferior opponent, 34-21. So going to an all NFC matchup now. Going to the NFC. You got what I think is the biggest mismatch of the weekend. You got the San Francisco 49ers taking on the Detroit Lions. Detroit is a team I've clowned all offseason. San Francisco is a team that I have praised all offseason for how they've handled their quarterback situation. Going into the draft, it looked like they were going to take Mac Jones. I was like, what the heck are they doing? You're getting Jimmy G reincarnated, except he can't move. Like, he does not move in the pocket. At Alabama last year, as great as he was, anytime the pocket collapsed, which being Alabama wasn't much, but anytime the pocket collapsed, he was getting chased down by defensive tackles. He couldn't even escape those big dudes. So in the NFL, when the defensive linemen are faster than some college tight ends, not kidding, that's going to be a real struggle for Mac Jones. And again, stay tuned for my Patriots prediction later in their game against the Dolphins. But they draft Trey Lance, a kid who is not ready yet to start. But I love his ceiling. A matter of fact, I think of all the 5 quarterbacks, I don't think he's the best. I think that's Trevor Lawrence without a doubt. But as far as who I think is going to have the best career, I think it's Trey Lance. That said, Jimmy G's your starter right now. San Francisco's schedule is piece of cake out the gate. Taking on a Detroit team on the road, which is going to struggle just to bite some kneecaps, to use a term by their head coach, Dan Campbell. Put up the final score. Before I put up the final score, San Francisco is favored -7.5, and I think that is being incredibly kind to Detroit. Put up the final score here. I think this is over at halftime. San Francisco wins 38-15. I don't think this is close. This is a mismatch everywhere you look. Quarterback, San Francisco. Okay, Jimmy G's better than Jared Goff. Okay, defensive line, San Francisco, not close. Offensive line, San Francisco, not close. Receivers, running backs. I mean, it is defense in general, coaching. It is the ultimate mismatch. Again, I will say it again, of the weekend. Let's get this one out the way quick. San Francisco will be 1-0 in a hurry and demolish the Detroit Lions at Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan, 38-15. So now it is time for our upset of the week. Upset of the week coming up right now. I was pretty accurate on some of my upsets of the week last year. Had one in week 5, I believe it was, back when the Miami Dolphins, nobody really thought of them as a playoff threat, and San Francisco at the time was still in the playoff race, or at least even the Super Bowl race, at least early in the season before Jimmy G suffered some of the injuries he suffered. But I said that the Miami Dolphins were going to go all the way to San Francisco and beat the 49ers. Not only did they beat the 49ers, they crushed them. So listen, upsets of the week. Listen, I know what I'm doing here. I know what I'm doing. And so I think this week's upset of the week will be the Arizona Cardinals will beat the Tennessee Titans 28-24. Titans are favored -3. Not only do the Titans not cover, I think they lose. Because here's the thing. While Tennessee's offense is about as good as there is in the NFL, I mean, it's top 10. You got Ryan Tannehill coming off an excellent season. Derrick Henry, the best running back in all of football. A 2,000-yard rushing season for him. You add Josh Reynolds in the offseason, who was excellent with the Rams. You add Julio from the Atlanta Falcons. My issue, though, with the Titans was they didn't necessarily need to add offensive talent. Defensively, they weren't good last year. They could not, I said it all year on my show last year, could not rush the passer. And it came back to bite him in the butt at the end against the Baltimore Ravens in the playoffs where they fell short. I'm not into the Titans this year. I think they missed the playoffs. And I look at a Cardinals team which has a good defensive line. Chandler Jones is still there. You added J.J. Watt. While he's not the J.J. Watt of 2014, Duke can still ball. When he's healthy, he can still get after the quarterback. You obviously have DeAndre Hopkins coming back second year with Kyler Murray. Yeah, A.J. Green in the offseason. Like this is, you have Andy Isabella, who's an underrated slot receiver. Might want to pick him up on your fantasy waiver wire while you're at it. Okay, you look at guys like Christian Kirk, who's a great deep threat. I mean, this Cardinals team is really, really good. Championship contender? Don't think so. That's in part because I don't trust their coach. But I think they go on the road to Tennessee. They're better on both sides of the ball. They're better, a more well-rounded, a team that will play more complementary football, if you will, than the Tennessee Titans. I think that will manifest itself in Nashville. The Cardinals will beat the Titans 28-24. That is my upset of the week. Let's go to another really interesting game. This is one of my favorite 1 o'clock Eastern games. The Seattle Seahawks going to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. This is interesting on so many levels. First of all, Seattle, any East Coast games, they've struggled. And obviously, you get it. They probably have the most miles traveled of any team in the league, considering they're all the way up there in the Pacific Northwest. They might as well be Canada, for all we know. But the point is, both teams have not been short on stories this offseason. Certainly the Seahawks. But let's start with the Colts for just a second. Let's start with the home team. With an old Phillip Rivers last year, a Phillip Rivers who is now coaching high school football, they made the playoffs and almost beat the Bills, who got to the AFC Championship game. The Bills were a better team, certainly a better quarterbacked team than the Colts. And they almost beat them. Phillip Rivers retired, and they go and get Carson Wentz. Now, frequent listeners of the show know, not a big Carson Wentz guy at all. Leadership, question. Okay. Consistency, big question. Staying healthy, the biggest question with Carson Wentz. But I think now that he is with his old offensive coordinator, remember the last time he and Frank Reich were together, Carson Wentz might have won the MVP had he not gotten hurt late in the season with the Eagles back in 2017. Well, they're reunited. Reich is the head coach. Wentz is, of course, the quarterback. There's no excuses for Carson Wentz now. He's got the running game. Jonathan Taylor. He's got a mammoth offensive line headed by Quentin Nelson, who will be back shortly from injury. Good receiving core. Michael Pittman. Obviously, T.Y. Hilton is out, and I think that does play factor into this game. You've got a great defense led by Darius Leonard, an excellent defensive line, and a good special teams in a weak division. There's no more excuses for Carson Wentz, ladies and gentlemen. None. Going against the Seattle team, which was one of the 3 or 4 most talked about teams this offseason. Why? Because shortly after Super Bowl 55, Russell Wilson just came out and spilled the tea everywhere, right? Similar to how Aaron Rodgers did at the start of training camp. But Russell Wilson's like, I want more say. I need more protection. And what do the Seahawks do? First of all, recently, they just signed Dwayne Brown to a new contract. Okay? You add the guy from the Raiders in the offseason. You add Gerald Everett, good pass-catching tight end, to your roster. And you get a new offensive coordinator who Russell apparently really likes. And so, in some ways, there's no excuses for Russell Wilson. And so, that all being said, I think this is going to be a very entertaining football game. The Colts are the better team all the way around. But this is a quarterback league, ladies and gentlemen. It just is. Because of that, I'm going to take the Seattle Seahawks to beat the Indianapolis Colts on the road. They are favored -2.5 on the road on the East Coast. I will take Seattle to win 27-20. I think it's a game that comes down to the wire. Would not be shocked if we get a game-winning Russell Wilson drive. Wouldn't be shocked at that at all. He tends to do that on occasion. So the Seahawks win 27-20. Let's go to our next game. This is a really interesting one. You got the Los Angeles Chargers, a team which I believe is going to get to the playoffs this year with a 10-7 record, taking on the Washington Football Team, a team that won arguably the worst division in the history of the National Football League last year with a 7-9 record. But for Washington, a hellacious good defense. I mean, that they got some dudes. Chase Young, Montez Sweat. I mean, they got some dudes on that roster. Got an excellent, underrated, if I might add, linebacking core. Offensively, you've got Terry McLaurin, very underrated receiver. You've got Antonio Gibson, who had an excellent rookie year last year. My only question, though, with this team, really, is the quarterback. Even the head coach, Ron Rivera. I've always liked Ron Rivera. I think he's an excellent head coach. Good team builder as well. But Ryan Fitzpatrick is the question for me. And so when you're talking about a game going against Justin Herbert, who broke virtually every rookie quarterback record last year, while missing a game, the first game of the season, Tyrod Taylor was a starter in that contest against Cincinnati. But he had, according to Pro Football Focus, the worst offensive line in the NFL and still broke the record for passing yards for rookie, touchdown passes for rookie. I mean, but I will take the Los Angeles Chargers to win this game by 2 scores on the road. They will cover, winning by 2 scores, 26-17. Listen, it's a pass rush that's going to get after an immobile quarterback in Ryan Fitzpatrick. You got Joey Bosa, who's back healthy. You got a defense that's, to me, kind of flying under the radar for the Chargers. A lot of talent on that end of the football. Their head coach is a defensive-minded guy. Now, Washington's going to give Justin Herbert problems. You see I have 26 up there. I think how they're going to get the 26, the Chargers, 2 touchdowns, 4 field goals. They're going to settle a lot. It's a road game, East Coast. It's going to be tough. But I think that we'll go on the road, beat the Washington Football Team, start 1-0, and not have to worry about it being a close game, a one-score game in the fourth quarter where they really struggled at times last year. Lost a lot of games in the fourth quarter last year. I think they close it out, beat Washington, start 1-0. Let's go to the most interesting, uninteresting game of the week. That would be the New York Jets hosting the Carolina Panthers. You've got a game in which you got Zach Wilson taking on the guy who he replaced, Sam Darnold, who's in Carolina now. Okay? Carolina, offensively, good as they come. Christian McCaffrey's back. You drafted Chuba Hubbard, who was a great college running back at Oklahoma State. Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore. So this team's got talent offensively. It's defensively that I think is going to lose them a lot of games this year. Okay, Carolina is favored -5. So they like the Panthers. With that being said, I think it's a close game. I do not think the Panthers cover. But they do win in a close game, 31-28. I'm on the bridge, Jets fans. I'm almost there. As far as buying into the Zach Wilson hype. This dude can make basically every throw in the book that I've seen a rookie make in the preseason action that I've seen him play. I know it's the preseason. I know to most of everybody out there, it means absolutely nothing. But those throws he was making in those tight windows off his back foot, the arm strength that it takes, the mechanics that it takes, there's a reason he was drafted 2nd overall. I was not big into Zach Wilson coming out of BYU in the draft, but I'm starting to rethink that. This kid is crazy talented, but I'll take the Carolina Panthers to win 31-28. They win a close one at home and go to 1-0. I think they have their quarterback. Maybe. I like Sam Darnold. Don't love him, but I think the Panthers are going in the right direction. They win a close one over the Jets, 31-28. Let's go to probably the least interesting game on the schedule, which is ironic because it has the most talked about player coming out of the draft, Trevor Lawrence. You got the Jacksonville Jaguars going to Houston, to take on the Texans, two teams that I think are going to win a combined 4 games. I think both teams are going 2-15 this year. They're both going to be awful. Jacksonville roster, crap. Houston roster, crappier. It's bad. Now, Tyrod Taylor is going to start for the Houston Texans. Deshaun Watson is either going to get traded this year or next year. We'll see. But I would say it's about a 99.9% chance he doesn't play a snap for the Houston Texans this year. Now, it's just about set in stone. It's Trevor Lawrence's first start. It's against a bad Houston defense. I think they take advantage of that. And I will take, if I can find it here, I will take the Jacksonville Jaguars to win this game 27-22. Jaguars are favored on the road -3. I think they cover and get the win 27-22 to start 1-0. Hey, listen, they beat the Colts last year with Gardner Minshew, and Gardner Minshew can play now. But they had Gardner Minshew beat the Colts last year in week 1. Who's to say they can't beat the lowly Texans, and they have Trevor Lawrence? That's kind of how I'm looking at it right now. All right, let's go to now the 4 o'clock games. The primetime-ish games, right? The CBS and the Fox games. Starting with what is likely, to many, the most intriguing 4:25 Eastern matchup. The Cleveland Browns taking on the Kansas City Chiefs in a rematch of last year's divisional round playoff game, which went down to the wire. Well, a big reason it went down to the wire is because Patrick Mahomes got hurt in the third quarter, which opened the door for Cleveland to kind of get back into it. But ultimately, they fell short to Chad Henne, who saved the day and kept the Kansas City Chiefs' postseason hopes alive, advanced them to the AFC Championship game about 8 months ago. And I get why CBS put this one up. Listen, Cleveland's roster's top 5. I might even argue top 3. Offensive line is great. Running backs. I mean, they got the best running back tandem in football. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. Excellent receiving core. Jarvis Landry. I don't know if Odell Beckham, because of his relationship on the field with Baker Mayfield, is a plus, but he is going to be on the field on Sunday. You got T. Higgins. You've got David Njoku and Austin Hooper. Defensively, you got Myles Garrett. And you got Grant Delpit coming back from injury after missing his entire rookie season last year. That kid can play. They added the 2 free agents, defensive backs from the Los Angeles Rams, who had the number 1 defense in the NFL last year. They've got the coach, Kevin Stefanski. My only questions with the team is the quarterback, Baker Mayfield. I like him. I think he can get you the playoffs. He proved that last year. But can he get you there? Can he get you there like Patrick Mahomes can? And speaking of Patrick Mahomes, guys, I think this is a slam dunk because Patrick Mahomes in September, since he's been a starter, first of all, he's never lost. He's undefeated in the month of September in the NFL. Number 2, you want to know what his numbers are in September? 32 touchdowns, 0 picks. So I think this is just about set in stone. This is about as close to a guarantee, a Charles Barkley guarantee as I can give you. I'm taking the Kansas City Chiefs to win this game pretty comfortably, 38-24. They are favored -6. Going into this game at Arrowhead, which is going to sound like Arrowhead again, one of the loudest crowds in the NFL, certainly one of the loudest outdoor crowds in the NFL, up there with Seattle. But this is going to be I like Cleveland this year, but this is going to be a long afternoon for them. Kansas City is better at quarterback. As much as I like Stefanski, Andy Reid, we know what he represents and how great he is in September. And again, Patrick Mahomes, he's never lost in the month of September. He's also never thrown an interception in the month of September with 32 touchdown passes. It's hard to bet against that. I will take the Chiefs to win 38-24. Now, this is my favorite afternoon game. This is my favorite right here. Miami Dolphins, New England Patriots. I was kind of looking forward to this game up until about 2 weeks ago. Now I can't wait for it. Because we all know the story about Cam Newton and how that all went down with his release. The Patriots essentially said we can trust Mac Jones more. And so, he's the starter. And in Miami, there's some doubts with Tua. Some doubts possibly from teammates, fans, Even the head coach has expressed little backhanded compliments, if you will, here and there. There were rumors that they were talking to the Houston Texans to acquire Deshaun Watson. We all know this is make or break for Tua. This is it. As average at best as he looked last year, getting replaced game in and game out by Ryan Fitzpatrick, who saved the day occasionally for the Dolphins. This is it. Because when you compare Tua to the other two quarterbacks he was drafted with in the first 6 picks of the 2020 draft, Joe Burrow, when he was healthy, when he had like 2 seconds to throw, looked unbelievable. Justin Herbert looked like a future Hall of Famer. Tua looked okay at best. He threw some interceptions. Arm strength wasn't what you'd like it to be. Accuracy, the thing that we gave him the most praise for coming into the NFL out of Alabama, even that was a little off last year. He's not that mobile. I do think Tua will have a bounce-back year this year. Is he going to be on the level of Herbert or even Burrow? I don't think so. But he's familiar with the Dolphins playbook. Hey, they got him some more weapons. He already had Mike Gesicki, who, if you have Mike Gesicki in fantasy, good for you. I think he's going to put up some good numbers this year. Myles Gaskin, who's a good running back, an improved offensive line. You added Will Fuller in free agency. Look at the numbers that he put up with the Houston Texans for the last few seasons. And you added one of Tua's old teammates, Jalen Waddle, who can flat out fly. He's not Tyreek Hill or Deshaun Jackson, but he's a step below that. I mean, this dude can run. And you got the chemistry with he and Tua. So it's all in front of him. And for you Alabama fans out there, this is their favorite game of the week because you got Alabama QB. This is going to be a fun one. I think it's going to be a defensive struggle because I think Miami's defense is great. I think New England's defense is bordering on it. They're going to miss Stephon Gilmore badly in this game. I think it's close. I think it comes down the wire. By the way, the Patriots at home are favored -3. This is a pick'em because, as we all know, the home team gets 3 points. Well, that's all they're giving the Patriots, so this is even. This is a pick'em. That said, I believe the Miami Dolphins are going to go on the road to Foxborough and win 21-16. Simply put, I like Tua more than I do Mac Jones. Second year, yeah, he's not mobile just like Mac Jones, but he's got pressure on him. And Tua seems like a guy to me that can handle pressure well. Mac Jones has no pressure. None. The Patriots aren't going to ask him for an entire 60-minute football game to win it for them. They have a really good running back, Henderson, they drafted in the 4th round, who really flashed in the preseason. I liked what I saw from him a lot. It's a good offensive line, but listen, what do we know about Bill Belichick without Tom Brady? We heard the quote from Asante Samuel a couple weeks ago, and people flipped out about it, saying Belichick's just another coach without Brady, and people are like, oh my God, he's crazy. I said, he's really not, because in the 8 years that Belichick basically hasn't had Brady, 5 in Cleveland, 3 in New England, he's made the playoffs only one time. One time. That's it. And so I think this is going to be another situation of that this year. I think the Patriots have a losing record, 8-9. I believe the Dolphins have a winning record, and they get into the playoffs at 10-7. And they start their season out on the right foot, 21-16. Now for a new segment. I got to take a little bit of time since it is week 1. It's the NFL season's back. Got to bring some new stuff in. It's a new segment because, listen, I'm a guy, if you haven't noticed, I've been giving out the Vegas lines for each game. And I'm not a guy who bets. I just don't do it. But because Vegas lines, I'm always fascinated by them going into the games. Where does Vegas fall? Because, listen, this is what they do for a living. This is their job. How do they feel? And so I got a new segment called If I Were a Bettin Man.
Would I a betting man?
And if I were a betting man, I think this is the lock of the week. The Green Bay Packers will win easily against the New Orleans Saints. The line right now is Packers on the road -4. Now, frankly, both teams are on the road because the game is going to be played in Jacksonville because of the terrible hurricanes in New Orleans. Once again, our thoughts and prayers go out to that entire city who's been affected, as well as all those around the country that have been affected by this horrible storm and other horrible storms. So hearts, thoughts, and prayers go out to everybody. But when I look at this game, I say, okay, the Saints are not going to be playing in that crazy loud Superdome. So it's a road team for both games, in which case I think there's more Packers fans around America and in Florida than there are Saints fans. So with that said, I'm going to take the Green Bay Packers to not only win, but cover easily 42-27. I think if I were a betting man, this is easy. This is an easy one. You get some free money on this one. You got to bet the over if you're somebody that goes to Vegas or is betting sports. Because, by the way, I read today that betting in football and in sports in general has went up 35%. It's a big thing now since the Supreme Court made it legal just a few years ago. So that if I were a betting man, that's what I'd take. Packers win easily and cover easily over the Saints 42-27. Let's go to the last two games of week one. Got the Denver Broncos taking on the New York Giants. This is a fascinating one because the Broncos on the road are 2.5-point favorites. Teddy Bridgewater will be the starter. And I've always said about Teddy Bridgewater, he's in that Alex Smith group, in the Tyrod Taylor group. It's ironic, two of those three guys are going to be starting in week one. They're not going to make you the mistake that loses the game. They're not going to make that, dang, what are you doing, Teddy? But they're also not going to make that, wow, did you see that throw Teddy made? But he's a game manager. And by the way, people act like that's a bad thing. That could win you games in the NFL if you got the roster. And the Broncos do have a good roster. I think their wins go up this year from 5 to 8. I think they go 8-9 this year. Noah Fant's an excellent tight end. Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, really good receiving core. Good offensive line. Garrett Bowles. Okay, you got Melvin Gordon. A defense that added Patrick Surtain out of Alabama to their secondary. You've got Von Miller. You've got Bradley Chubb rushing the passer. So, Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes, Danny Pennies, whatever you call him, as I always say on the show, he's got a bad case every year. He always seems to catch a bad case of the fumbles. And I think he'll make a couple mistakes that will keep this one close. But something about the Giants last year that I think really went under the radar, that defense is good. Like, it was top 10 good last year, which surprised me because going into the year, they were awful. 2019, their defense was just atrocious. Well, the hiring of Joe Judge, a special teams guy, really, really upgraded the defense last year. They bring back almost everybody. Leonard Williams is back. So I think they will give this Denver offense some trouble. I think Teddy will make one mistake. And Teddy's one to Daniel Jones too, because listen, you expect Daniel Jones to make mistakes. And by the way, we're talking about quarterbacks in a prove-it year. Daniel Jones is in that group. This is a prove-it year. He's got great receivers, good offensive line. He's got Saquon coming back. Saquon's expected to be available for this game, coming back from a torn ACL last season. An excellent defense, good coaching staff. And so I will take the New York Giants to win this game 24-16. Not only will the Broncos not cover, I think they fall on the road at the Meadowlands to the New York Giants. I think this is a team that could contend for the NFC East. I actually like the Giants more than I do the football team. I really do. But, in the case of both teams, I don't trust their quarterbacks, which is why I'm taking Dallas to win the division, because I absolutely trust their quarterback. But in this case, it's an East Coast game for Denver. Usually they start the season at home. It seems like every year Denver's always starting week one at home. Not the case this year. They go to the Meadowlands. They fall 24-16 and really struggle to move the ball against an excellent Giants defense, and they fall to 0-1. Okay, here we go. Final game of the Sunday slate. A week one schedule, which bravo to the NFL. Bravo. You start with the Cowboys and the Bucks. Okay, even the uninteresting games, games that we thought of this, nobody's watching this. Like, Jets and Carolina. I can't wait to watch that game. Sam Darnold's first game in Carolina, his first game away from Adam Gase. And then you got Zach Wilson who comes in. It's like, well, look at this kid in the preseason. I can't wait. The week one is going to be unbelievable. Even the worst game of the week, which is Jacksonville and Houston, two teams I think are going to be terrible. It's Trevor Lawrence's first start. I'm going to watch. It'll be interesting. So to finish week 1, you got the Chicago Bears taking on the Los Angeles Rams on Sunday Night Football on NBC at the beautiful SoFi Stadium, which will host Super Bowl 56 this season on February the 13th. Can't wait for that. Obviously, we've got a long ways to go. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. It is week 1. Everybody, save for 2 teams right now, is 0-0. This game would be 5 times more interesting if Justin Fields was playing. I wish Justin Fields were playing in this game. He's not. Matt Stafford is. This is his first game as an LA Ram. This is the first time we'll really see Matt Stafford in a Los Angeles Rams uniform because he, along with quite a few other quarterbacks, did not play a single snap in the preseason. For Matt Stafford, he's also in the quarterback group where, okay, show us, because he was in Detroit for a long time. He's in a crappy organization for 12 years. With bad coaching, bad management. He had one great player his whole time there. That was Calvin Johnson, who just got inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Congrats to him. After that, he didn't have much else. But at least he put up big numbers, right? But couldn't win a playoff game. So is it Stat Padford put up pretty numbers, but didn't really win the game that counted? Or is it, man, poor guy was trapped in the Lions organization for 12 years, and look what he's doing with the Rams. I love the Rams this year because about as well-rounded a roster as you have in the NFL with a great coach, and you get an upgrade at quarterback, Matt Stafford over Jared Goff. I like the Rams a lot this year. I liked getting Sony Michel from the Patriots after Cam Akers went down with the unfortunate Achilles injury. Running game's going to be good. Passing game's going to be excellent. And so put up the score right now. I don't think this game will be particularly close. I've got the Los Angeles Rams, who are 7-point favorites at home, winning 28-13. So yes, they absolutely cover. Here's the thing about the Chicago Bears. Andy Dalton is not a mobile quarterback. He's not. The Bears' offensive line is a big question. Probably the biggest question of their entire offense, and that includes quarterback. I have more faith in Andy Dalton than their offensive line. That's a recipe for a big Sunday night disaster when you consider they're taking on Aaron Donald and a great, matter of fact, number 1 defense in the NFL. That defensive line is going to give Andy Dalton real trouble. It's going to be a long night for him. Long night. I've got the LA Rams, the first game in the Matthew Stafford era, winning 28-13 and starting 1-0. So there you go. That is my week 1 predictions. It is Friday, September the 10th. Football is back, ladies and gentlemen. College football started last weekend. The NFL is back. We've got it. Got actual real games to predict. Enough of this preseason stuff. I'm ready for real games. And 14 Sunday games, all of them in their own way, extremely intriguing. Listen, this is the time of year where everybody's optimistic. Even the bad teams are optimistic. Maybe this is our year. And other teams where there's legit expectations, this needs to be our year. We need to be hoisting that Lombardi Trophy on February the 13th of 2022 in SoFi Stadium. So with that, it is time to get some football going. Had a game played last night. Got 14 play that will be played on Sunday. Cannot wait. So with that, that is all the time we have for tonight's Carving It Up NFL Week 1 prediction show. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to catch Carving It Up on Monday to react to all these games at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time on Facebook Live, YouTube, and Twitter. Be sure to stay safe out there. Enjoy some college football on Saturday. Enjoy the NFL's return on Sunday. The fans are back. It feels like football again. It feels like the NFL season again. The air is crisper. It just feels great. Have a great weekend, y'all. See you when I get back from Tampa. God bless you all.